Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigating Neurodiversity podcast. I'm Vivian, registered psychologist, and today's episode is part of our series on extraordinary parents, where we invite parents of neurodivergent kids to come in and share with us their stories, their challenges, and their victories. So today with me, I've got Abigail Chee. Abby is a mom of 3, one of whom is neurodivergent. So I first got to know Abby actually when she brought her son to Bloom, so she was one of our clients, right? But since then, I've gotten to know Abby and I've been very amazed by this lady here and all that she's done. So that's why I've gotten her in today. So Abby has a degree in psychology and she's also a trained teacher. So in the process of working with her son and discovering the effective strategies for her own children, she somehow managed to also find the time and energy to coach other parents of neurodivergent kids. So very happy, Abby, thanks for making time to come today. So maybe we'll start with a bit of background for Abby to share about your journey and what got you interested in neurodiversity, and what led you to the path today as a parenting coach.
Thank you, Vivian, for inviting me. I'm really happy and honored to be here. Yes, as Vivian has mentioned, I'm a mom. I'm now currently working as a parent coach, and so I basically run courses and I have a membership supporting parents with neurodivergent kids, and I provide training, I provide coaching, and now I'm starting to provide videos for the kids themselves, because I find that increasingly the parents that come to me are telling me that the kids are not listening to them, or maybe they're at a point of their relationship where anything the parent says, the kids are reacting vehemently or very sensitively, like you stop nagging at me, so I'm seeing that, and especially as the neurodivergent kids are going into the tweens and teens phase, it becomes increasingly hard. So I'm seeing that need and I'm trying to alleviate the parents' burden so that I provide the teaching and the parents can do the supporting. So we're seeing whether this model works out better for my members, and I'm very excited to try that out. Yeah, so what led me to this journey is that when about 2-3 years back, that was before I met you and I came to you. So I think like most parents were like, oh, okay, there's something not quite right with my son, so we'll find like a public psychologist, a public route, right? Because it's cheaper, yeah, more cost effective, yeah. And thinking that we would get support from the schools directly. But one day I found myself on the floor crying with my son because he's coming back from school, he's doing his usual thing, right? He's doing his meltdowns and all. Usually I'm quite in control, but not that day. Because the morning, just that morning, I got off on a Zoom call with the school counselor and the public agency psychologist. And basically they were telling me like, hey, your son's okay in school, not disruptive, but we will treat him as if he has ADHD and you do whatever you can for your son. And I was like, oh, am I supposed to be happy or happy that he's not very serious, but like, then what does he have? He doesn't have ADHD, he doesn't have, so what exactly does he have? And I was just feeling lost. Yeah. So I was sitting there and my problems were not solved, right? But with this non or half a diagnosis. So I was looking at my son and I realized that that moment I realized that it's really up to me. And the advice that the psychologist gave was actually quite right. It's like, do whatever you can as a parent to help. So I think that led me to read up more on ADHD, because that was what we were suspecting and he checks most of the boxes, and then and that led me to discover something called executive function, which is what most kids with ADHD have, and it's something what parents can do because it's just anyone can do this kind of training and practice with their kids at home. So I thought this was something that will work for us, and that's what led me to this. Yeah, and through my sharing on Instagram, I'm realizing that people were starting to resonate with my message and the things that I was doing with my kid, and so they started messaging me and I started sharing more. And that was when I realized that, oh, okay, there are actually a lot of us.
Yes, and you've built
out
this
there.
community,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes. And most of our kids are in mainstream schools, but they are just not quite thriving, and with meltdowns, either meltdowns or distraction or inattentiveness or just not thriving, and some of these parents come to me and they're like, my kid is quite smart, but someone's not showing up in the grades, and they're getting into trouble with their friends, with their teachers, and what's going on? Yeah. So I realized there's quite a lot of us out there, and slowly banding together to seek support, to seek just crowdsource for knowledge and resources.
Yes, fantastic. Thanks. I mean, that's really wonderful and inspiring, and you kind of use your background also as a teacher, and I'm sure that you brought on those skills from psychology and your own reading. So I'm really curious to find out, like, what are the most common parenting challenges, as a parent coach, where parents come to you?
I think two common challenges is that one is emotional regulation from themselves. A lot, and of course the emotional regulation of the child as well. A lot of them tell me that I don't want to hit my kid, I don't want to scold and nag at my child, but he pushes me until the extent where I start off being nice, and then it just escalates until like
I can totally identify with that too.
Then you start yelling at a child, and then he complies, right? And we're like wondering, why can't you obey me the first few times I ask nicely?
Yeah.
Why must you make me yell, then you will obey? And the second one is related to that, is how to get cooperation from their neurodiverse child. I think these two issues, the main cause of it is unmet expectations. The underlying cause is unmet expectations. First off, the parent of the child, like, I'm expecting you to obey, I'm expecting you to be able to do certain things, like get ready for school without me nagging, but yet the child is somehow unable, or we perceive it as they are defiant, they're not willing to comply, right? And of course the other side is the child also has a lot of unmet expectations and needs that he's not getting from the parent. He's not getting the understanding, or like, why are certain things so hard for him, and the parent expects me to do it all the time. And so we are like going on two parallel lines that are not meeting, and therefore I think that's the main cause of a lot of this tussle, the tug of war.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think oftentimes we have the age expectations, right? Like, hey, you're already how old, right? We expect you to be able to do that, and then when our kids fall short of that age expectations that we expect, that you should be able to do this independently, that's where it creates a lot of, I think, frustration, and I see sometimes a lot of parental guilt as well, especially for working moms, where am I not spending enough time coaching and teaching him? Is that why this is happening, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really about coming down and really a lot of unlearning on the part of the parent, unlearning and relearning, and stripping away a lot of these expectations, what we think should be the way and what society thinks should be the way for the child. And I think once we get that sorted out, then I think we'll get a breakthrough in a relationship, then everything else can kind of fall into place. I believe that there should always be a connection first before coaching, connection before teaching.
Yes,
right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So the relationship really is at the foundation of
That's
all
right.
of that, right? Yeah.
I think it's about a journey of relearning all the time. I think there's once, it just happened a month ago, and I think I thought I was like, oh, very far along in this journey already, I should know better, right? But I found myself scolding my child and saying some pretty harsh words. So the context was I was trying to teach my child Chinese comprehension. It's an assessment, right? Chinese comprehension. So there was a passage I was supposed to read. Of course, there were a lot of words he didn't know, and then so we came across this unfamiliar word like 邀请, right? Invite. So I said, oh, this word is 邀请, invite. Then we read, and again, a lot of other words we don't know, so we had to explain other words. Then we came back to the same word. Oh, what's this word? Same as this one. 邀请. And then it happened like 5 times, and each time I was speaking louder and louder at him, as if the volume of my words would kind of just penetrate through his brain.
The emotional thermometer also going up, right?
Exactly. And then I finally exploded. I was like, are you listening? Are you concentrating? Why aren't you concentrating? Then I paused and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what his teachers say all the time. That's exactly what parents who don't have that know-how would say, because we think that the child is not learning because he's not concentrating. It's always the child's fault, right? It's never the teacher's fault. Yeah. So of course I went back, I cooled down, I reflected, and I apologized to him, and said, okay, next time we'll try different ways of learning. And I think sometimes it's just constantly reminding ourselves that our kids are really just wired differently, and what works for other kids doesn't work for them. And what people say is that the insanity is when we do the same thing again and again, and expecting a different result. But it's just that, we think repetition would make the content go in, but it just causes the child to get frustrated because he's just not getting it. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Abby. I think it's really important for parents to hear, to know that even a parenting coach like yourself, right,
yes,
experience like and psychologist like myself, that's the reality of it, right? There's really no such thing as like a perfect parent, and we're all just trying to manage our children and manage our own emotions simultaneously, and that can be quite difficult.
Yes, and it's always that head knowledge is one thing, right? And then when it comes to the actual situation where the applying of that knowledge is something else quite different. But I think we're always learning, and I think the good thing is our ADHD kids are quite forgetful and forgiving.
Oh yes. That's a plus.
Yeah, that's a plus, sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yes. So Abby, there are no quick and easy solutions, right, to a lot of these situations that we experience. But perhaps we can share with parents what are the key things that they should be focusing on in order to see some improvements in their child's behavior.
So I think the first thing as parents, that's our primary job, right, is rebuilding that connection with our kid. A lot of the parents that come to me, they're at this point where their relationship is a bit broken and a bit strained. So I think as parents, that's the very first thing to focus on. Like, how do we reconnect with the child? And of course, it's a big answer, and a lot of it has to deal with like understanding our child. We mentioned that before already, and then re-looking at our own expectations again. So I think that was the main factor. I think main thing that turned my relationship with my child around. That's when I started to, okay, let's not talk about homework, let's not talk about grades, whatever that we're fighting about, we just put that aside first, and we just focused on just going out with him, spending time with him, getting to know him as a person. And we tried to, me and my husband, we tried to play games with him because that's what he was obsessed about, right? Computer games. So we really tried to get down to that level, and not in a derogatory kind of way, but really just taking the child at face value, whatever he is, whoever he is, right? So we spoke a bit about that expectations, right, just now. Yeah, so I think that reminded me of something I read about EF skills, executive function skills. So that gave me a lot of hope, so I wanted to share this today, that kids with ADHD actually are pretty delayed, maybe 2 to 3 years behind their peers in terms of executive function. So that means that our kids are operating at maybe a younger age. So my child is 11 this year, so if he's delayed about 3 to 4 years, I'd say he's operating about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. And then it suddenly made sense to me, because in terms of emotional regulation, he is that of like a 7-year-old child or even a 6-year-old. And in terms of social skills, like communicating with his friends at the playground, and then they're often getting into fights, right? And yeah, exactly, he's that or like preschooler. And it's very obvious because he and my preschooler actually play really well together. Because they're of that same mental age. Yeah, just yesterday they were like running around with Nerf guns. I was like, oh wow. It all makes sense now. And so I thought it gave me a lot of hope because it just means that the child is slightly delayed, but it also means that eventually they will catch up. We just need to give them more time. We just need to be more patient. We just need to lower down our expectations on what they can independently do at this point in time, and maybe break down the skills a bit more for them so that they are able to taste success. I think that's the other key factor in turning our relationship around, is that we stop focusing on his weaknesses and what he can't do, but more on what he can do and what he's already good at.
Yeah.
And so that's the second thing I hope all parents will kind of focus on. So the first was relationship, right? And the second thing is about finding our kids' strengths and finding something real and authentic to praise them about. I think it's very important for our ADHD kids because, or our neurodivergent kids, because I think these kids are really very misunderstood and very overlooked in school. And that's the best case scenario. If they're overlooked, they are like just ignored, right? And the teachers don't get on their case. But if not, they are actually picked on a lot. They are scolded, they are criticized, and they don't. And what seems to come easily for others, like a simple praise from a teacher, or my son would see his sister like go up to stage and receive awards often. Then he'll be like, "Oh, I never get that." Yeah.
So heartbreaking, right, as a parent to hear that.
Yeah. So I think something that we need to focus on is to praise, and not only just it's superficial or fake kind of like, oh, well done, it has to be thoughtful, it has to be real and specific. So what I teach my members is to really see that child's behavior, like whatever good thing that he is doing, and then we really pick it out and say the behavior exactly as it is, so that he or she knows this is what mommy is looking out for. I need to repeat this behavior to elicit that kind of praise. So I might say things like, hey, I see that you are putting in effort to learn your Chinese spelling. Last time you only do 2 times, you only write the word 2 times, and then whether or not you remember, you kind of forget, let it go, right? But yesterday I saw you putting in effort to learn the word or write the word 5 times. So things like that. So be very specific and call out that behavior that you want to see. And then you will see your child kind of like, the eyes will light up, he's very happy. He tries to please you, because a lot of our kids, they actually want to please us. So, and it's not about manipulating that behavior, it's just about praising what is true. Yeah. So I think these 2 things would be really, really critical, I think, because the child is now tasting a bit of success, he's getting praised, and then that sets him up in a virtuous cycle, when he tastes success, then he wants to put in more effort to do better, and together with that connection, so that will break us out of that whole like the scolding, nagging, negative cycle into a praise, success kind of positive cycle.
Okay, so Abby, as you were talking, I mean, I was just thinking about so many things, like, the catch them being good thing, that when we were going through our teacher training, and something which we always try to also get teachers to do, not just parents, right? That because we know that a lot of our neurodivergent kids get a lot of negative feedback. They're constantly hearing, that, oh, why you didn't do this, why you forgetting this, why you're not doing this. So they get a lot of negative feedback, and so we need to find that positive something, focusing on what they can do rather than what they can't do, right? But I also think it's quite difficult to do that sometimes, right? In a sense that you have to be in sort of that positive frame of mind, and sometimes when you're just feeling so tired, so exhausted, so frustrated, it's very hard to find that capacity within ourselves to see the good, to praise and so on. So I wanted to lead into next question, which is a very common thing that we hear, that dealing with meltdowns, because I think that's something that a lot of our parents also struggle with, the emotional regulation aspect, and then trying not to melt down ourselves when our child is having a meltdown also, right? So I was thinking maybe you can share some handles with parents in terms of what they can do, right, in the case of a meltdown.
So I think the key thing for me, because I used to yell at my child as well, right? But the key turning point for me was getting a proper diagnosis, realizing that my child is neurodivergent, realizing that he has a problem. He is not the problem. He has a problem, has made me has drawn out my maternal instincts a bit more and be more patient with him. And knowing that he's not out to make my life difficult. Yeah. So when I kind of changed or reframed how I saw my child, it made things a little bit easier. It's not totally easy. It doesn't cure it all totally, and I still get frustrated with my son. But it gave me a bit more birth, I think, more leeway to see that his behavior is a way of communicating his needs to me. And at least for me, and this is what I teach the parents who are able to do that, is to recognize our own triggers in ourselves. And sometimes it's not really the child, right? It's about us. It's about what stresses us, and then we lash out because we're just taking it out on somebody. So if we can be pretty honest with ourselves, that's what's really happening. But if we are able to still be conscious, and we realize things like we can recognize our physiological reactions, like our blood pressure kind of rises up, right? You feel that goosebumps, or you feel your chest tightening. And it takes practice, right? It takes a lot of self-control and discipline as well. And to realize that and realize, okay, I'm getting worked up, I can say something that's not helpful, or I can choose to walk away. And if we are able to be still in that conscious state of mind to choose the right thing to do, then most of us will choose wisely, right? And just say, okay, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, I'm going to walk away and not say anything mean. Yeah. I know some parents, they have a shorter fuse, and it's more difficult for them. And you talk about like practical handles, so I think 2 things came to mind. So one of it is that helped really well is just to keep it top of mind for myself that day, that okay, I can lose it, but not today. So I tell myself, I will give myself permission to throw a adult tantrum, a hissy fit, sometime, but not today. Yeah, I think this gives me psychologically a way out. It's like I don't have to be perfect. I can mess up once in a while, but I will try not to do it today. Yeah, I won't use up my chance today. So I think that helps me to be a bit more conscious. It's just about being more conscious and mindful that I can be in control of my emotions, and if I am put in that situation, I can walk away and still win, right? And the other thing is to see ourselves as having success in terms of emotional regulation by, like, if we give ourselves like a 90% chance of success and then 10% chance of messing up, that's pretty good. So you think about it, it's like 1 out of every 10 days I can lose my temper.
That's a smart goal. It's achievable.
It's a smart goal. It's achievable and very specific. And then if we get there, like 1 out of 10, right, then we slowly reduce. Maybe can we go 1 out of 15 days, 1 out of 20 days, 1 out of 30 days. And that's our way of looking at markers of success for ourselves as well, that to see that we are also improving. Because I think a lot of times we are stuck in that 2 days good, 3 days bad, 1 day good, 5 days bad, that kind of cycle with our kid. It actually throws us into a state of loss of control, because we don't know what to expect with our kid. And the kid also doesn't know, because one day he comes back from school, it's a good day, everything's great, I can give him work and he does it happily, right? Or one day he comes back and the teachers are yelling at him, give him lots of homework, and then he's just in a rage. So we also don't have a lot of control over the situation. What kind of child are we receiving home today? But at least what we can control is ourselves. So when we are able to give ourselves that kind of goal and stick to it, then we realize that, okay, I'm getting better at managing my own emotions. And I also realize that, and you will as well over experience, that the more you can control yourself, and give your child that space to vent. Helpful imagery is to just pretend or just imagine you are this impassioned wall and your child just throwing stuff at you. Not physically, but he's just venting and ranting at you. But as long as you're immovable, as long as you don't react, the fire is gonna die down, right? That fiery tantrum it has just no fire, no combustible object to keep burning, to continue burning. And so it has to die out at some point. He'll just lose energy and it'll just peter off, right? So these two things has been helpful for me. The first one was to set ourselves a goal not to lose our temper. The second one is to imagine yourself as a wall. So I give my kids 3 rules that they can vent and rant, but they cannot hurt themselves, they cannot hurt other people, they cannot hurt things. Because I'm like very scarred by the Michael Fay incident where they go out and they vandalize public property and get caned, right? So I'm like, you cannot take it out on things as well.
So in a way you give them that safe space to be able to express their emotions, but then you set certain rules and boundaries.
And it's a journey for the child as well. It's a process, right? At first, my kid will be yelling at me, mean words, right? Some of you experience that. I hate you, you're the worst, and all that. And at first, I allowed him because it was just words. And he wasn't hurting other people. But eventually, as he got better, as I saw him getting better, then I set more rules for him and say, you cannot say things like that because you're hurting me. So you can go to the room and you can shout into your pillow, close the door so I don't hear the words, that's fine. But you cannot say mean things to other people.
Right. So in a way you don't expect perfection from the start,
correct,
but you kind of set little goals and then as you see the improvement, then you adjust that bar a little bit.
So it's also a journey, so you have to be able to see these markers of success. And then again, praise your child for it, right? Recognize that he's putting in effort to control his emotions.
Abby, what I really liked about your response to the meltdown questions was that actually a large part of it, you begin with self-management first, right? Because a large part of managing meltdowns is really managing our own emotions first before we can think about our child, and how we can set those realistic goals for them. So again, I think, the issue of self-care and having that capacity to be able to stay calm and so on, I think that's really, really important. And a lot of the parents that we have, it sometimes feels like they spend every ounce of their time and energy and they're putting in so much into trying to help their child and so on, that they have very, very little left for themselves sometimes. So we see a lot of parent burnout, parent guilt and so on. So I wanted to get your thoughts as well, what kind of advice or tips would you give to parents in terms of taking care of themselves?
I think I picked up on what you said about giving every ounce of ourselves. I think if we can, let's not get there. if we can. And if you really have that little ounce left, give it to yourself. Don't give it to your child. Because I believe that a happy mom leads to a happy child. Or a happy parent leads to a happy child. If you are burning yourself down to the ground, that's not going to do your child any good, because you're just going to end up frustrated and you have no mental bandwidth to hold that space for your child. So I think that if you can, if it's just that 1 ounce left, use it. You're better off using it to go for a run by yourself, go for a walk by yourself, just do whatever you can to get back into that calm space. And of course, practically, I'd say sleep early. I think most of us are like guilty of it.
Yes.
I think I'm definitely a more regulated parent when I get enough sleep. If not, I'm just pretty grouchy myself. But practical things like that, right? And we all know it, but the thing is, we don't do it because various reasons. It's our me time. We just want to stay up, and I get that, because that's me too. And this is the only time where I'm undisturbed and my kid's already sleeping. So and we are tempted to want to milk the quiet nights for ourselves. And if that's your kind of self-care, then do it, right? But throughout the day, just give yourself more pockets of space to self-regulate. If you're an introvert person that you need your alone time, then take that alone time. If you are an extrovert and you need to recharge by being with your friends or going for date nights with your husband, then do it. Do whatever that works for you to recharge. So I think another thing that really helped my mental health and wellness is having regular help that I can count on. So once a week, my mother-in-law will take my kids. So that gives me an entire day where I can just do whatever I want. So it helps me like just look forward to this day a week, and I know I can take a lot more crap if I have this one day that like Friday is coming. Yes. Yeah. So if you need to get that space, like send your kids for tuition or whatever it is, that's fine. It's like we don't have to feel too guilty about not spending our every waking moment with the child. And in fact, my child behaves a lot better when I'm not around for some strange reason. Yeah, so sometimes I have to go out, right? And then he's like, so I give him a list of stuff to do, like, oh, you have to do homework and this and this and this. And then I go out not expecting him to do it, but then I come home and like, I'm pleasantly surprised. Wow. It's done. Like, hey, I should go out more often.
Yeah. It's a sign.
Right. And I guess it's the mindset, like we don't have to take everything on our shoulders. If you have a religion, I encourage you to really seek God and know, and I trust that my God knows how to take care of my child better than I do, and God has a purpose and a plan for my child that is beyond what I can see right now, and not to let what society keeps telling us, like, oh, your child needs certain grades, or your child needs to make it to this school to be successful. And I think Dr. Yang Vivian has an amazing podcast where she features neurodiverse adults who have been on the journey and they have found success in their various areas. And
plug Uncommon Minds, please. Please follow.
Yeah, it's so encouraging, and I think it's important for us to like just look ahead at what other parents who are ahead of us in the journey have achieved, have gone through, and I think it gives us hope. It gives me hope. It gives me a lot of hope and something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Abby, for your time. Now, one last question to round off. Do you have a key message for our parents of neurodivergent children who are watching?
I think the main two things to focus on, just to round up, is connection with our child, praise and affirm. I think if we do these two things right, we will maintain that relationship that's going to bolster them through the teenage years and beyond. And I think at the end of the day, it's really all that's required of us as a parent. Anything more, like we can teach them skills and all that, that's like icing on the cake. But minimally, this is what we try to focus on. And when we do that, focus on connection and praise and affirm the child to build that self-esteem, then we will find that I think the child will be in a very, very good place to go pursue and achieve anything he or she sets a mind on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so well said. A lot of times we parents ask for strategies and so on. And yes, while strategies are important, but they cannot work in a vacuum without that grounding of that solid relationship. Right. So completely agree. Thank you again, Abby. So I hope that this episode has been helpful to our parents and maybe professionals as well. And if you've got any comments or questions, do let us know. Thank you.
Thank
you.
That was really good.
That was excellent.
Yes.
I almost cried.